Hi everybody, it is Ginell Cooper and I'm here to do something super fun today. We are going to do a fall project, even though it is August, but I am just aching for fall. And we're gonna make a pumpkin pillow in Overlay Mosaic crochet. We haven't done an overlay one since we did this video here for this one. It's been a while, so I want to tell you, if you want to learn like the very basics of overlay mosaic crochet, you might want to go check out the video where I did this. If you've never done mosaic before, you've never heard of it before, and you want to know what it is, go check out that video. Otherwise, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this. So what I did is instead of doing this little tiny mosaic crochet project, we're gonna do a big one. So I went and got some big, huge yarn. This is the big Bernat Blanket Yarn. And I've got it in 3 different colors. I got the orange and the green. You can't fit all 3 of them on camera. Green and gray. And we're gonna make a cute little pumpkin cover that goes over a 20-inch, also can't fit on camera, 20-inch pillow. Look at how huge that is, pillow form. So I will just show a picture of it here so you can see it. And it's gonna be a big, fluffy, fun fall pillow. The thing about it is, I've kind of got a basic for what I wanna do. I took this mosaic pattern off of somebody's blog. And I'm gonna put the blog information in the description. Okay, so the person who created this original pattern the blog is called juniperandoaks.com, and I'm gonna link it in the description so you can get to it. I just changed her pattern a little bit because the original pattern, I'll put it right here so you can see it, was she made one for a strip to go on a blanket. It's part of a crochet along project, and I only wanted one, and we're gonna make it, instead of it being small, like it's only 27, it would normally be about this big, but we're gonna make it big because we're gonna use the big blanket yarn. So that's the difference. I went in and I took out some of the dark colors on the edges here because we just wanna do it for one, and just kind of fixed it a little bit, but it's still her pattern, still wanna give her credit. And so go ahead and check out her website if you want to have that pattern in front of your face. I'm gonna put this up here in the corner so you can follow along. I'm gonna try and do a blog for it too, and I'm also gonna post it on the Facebook group, and the Facebook group is called Ginell's Quarantine Crochet, so that you can just download it to your phone and just kind of follow along with me if you want to. I'm probably gonna get myself a little piece of paper like this, and we're just gonna go row by row. So it's kind of hard to see on the screen probably what I'm doing because the reflection off the phone, especially my broken phone. My husband broke my phone accidentally, but so it'll probably be easier to do it if you put it on your own phone or your own, you could actually put it on a tablet. That would probably be a lot better to see because it'd be smaller or whatever, or bigger. So so follow along with me, and we're gonna start off, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually create the pillow from the back all the way around. So we'll have I should probably draw this out. Hold on just a second. Okay, so this is just a crude representation of what I'm trying to do. We're actually gonna create a pillow cover, but it's just gonna be one rectangle. And then we're gonna fold this piece, the bottom piece and the top piece over in the back, and one's gonna overlap the other one. And then we're gonna get these cute little fall buttons, which I have not gotten yet, but I will. And we're gonna do little buttons across the back. And the reason I'm doing it that way instead of just attaching it together is I found that pillow forms don't last very long, but the actual piece that we're gonna make will. So this will be so that you can take the pillow form out and replace it, or you can just take the cover off and wash it without having to wash the cheap pillow form that went in there. Then it'll last longer for you. I just prefer to have them that way. So it's going to overlap, and then on the sides, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little tassels, because each row starts a new row. Instead of weaving these ends in, we're going to do this together on the sides for them so that they go together. I don't know how to describe that. So it'll look really cute. I may also sew it on the sides too, just so that it's got a better connection there so it doesn't come apart. But we're not gonna weave any of these ends in. We're gonna use them as these cute little tassels on the side. We're just gonna fold, pretend like this is the middle section. We're gonna have a little bit longer, that's gonna fold to the back. We're gonna have a little bit longer over here, that's gonna fold to the top in the back. And then they're gonna overlap And then we're going to have a little line right here where we're going to have the cute little buttons across the back. And then these little tassels will be on the side. And it'll be, in my head, it's super cute. We'll see. Everything that I do, as you guys know, if you've been following my videos, is a journey. So I've kind of got the basics figured out, and then we're just going to jump right into it. And then whatever obstacles come our way, we'll overcome them. Make sure you have a measuring tape because my stitches and your stitches might be different. And we can always add rows on the end if it's not right, because that's the great thing about not making a square, is that we can kind of decide, you know, how we're going to put the pumpkin in the middle, and then wherever it rolls over the top of the pillow is where it's going to work. So that made no sense. I'm sorry. I'll show you. It'll make sense. So get the measuring tape. The yarn calls for, I usually just use what they ask me to use. So this yarn is the Bernat Blanket Yarn. You can find it at Joann's or whatever. I'll put links to it, to my Amazon links in the description if you need them, if you don't have access to like an Amazon or to a Joann's. This one's called Orange Leaf. The other color, I'll have to find the other color for you, but the gray one is just called Dark Gray. The green one is called Smoky Green, but of course you can use any colors you want. We're gonna go ahead and get started. It said it wants a size P hook, which is a 15 millimeter, and lucky for me, I happen to have one. That's not 15 millimeter. That is 11.5, it says on mine. So we'll see if it works. This is the one I practiced with though, so I think it'll be just fine. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna start off with the very bottom row. We're just gonna do green. None of this fancy stuff. We'll get into the mosaic part when we get up here in the middle. And then I'll show you how to get started down here. So the pattern calls for 27 stitches across. So that's what we're gonna do. And then we'll make sure that it's, once we get going on it, we'll make sure that it's gonna be about 20 inches wide so that it fits over the pillow just fine. So 27 inches or 27 stitches is what you're going for. Okay, so we're gonna start with the foundation single crochet. If you've never done one of these before, I have tons of videos on them because I just love this technique. But basically what we're doing is instead of chaining and then doing a row of single crochet, we're gonna do them both at the same time. And you're gonna leave a little tail, but not a big one, because we're gonna do our little end with it. And then you're gonna do each row, you're gonna cut it and start over. And you don't, I know that you're probably sitting there going, well, why would you have to do that if we're all doing solid color and we're not doing mosaic on this? I just like for the look to be uniform through the whole thing. Also, it'll give us the little tassels that we need to tie them together and make them cute when we put the pillow together. So that's why I'm doing that. So we're just gonna start off with, leave yourself a little bit of a tail, but not a huge one. You're going to start with a slip knot. I've never done this with this yarn before, so it'll be interesting. If you've ever worked with this yarn before, it can be a little bit interesting to get used to at first because it doesn't slide like yarn that we're used to. So you want to make sure that first piece is on there real good. Otherwise, you're going to have a big weird loop at the bottom. Okay, then you're going to chain one. It's going to be very hard to see what I'm doing. So I am going to give you, there's a link in the description to how to do a foundation single crochet. And it's on my 1-minute videos. And you can actually get to it through my Stitch Minute playlist as well. One chain, we're going to do a second chain. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back into the first chain. Make sure you have 2 pieces of yarn on this side and 1 piece on that side. You can't tell because of this fuzzy yarn, but that's what you're looking for, okay? You're gonna pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop, yarn over, and pull through the last 2. Okay, so what you did basically is you did a chain and a single crochet at the same time. See how I kind of put my finger where that chain is? That'll help you kind of remember where to go next. So you're gonna go back into the original chain, or the first chain. Make sure you have 2 pieces of yarn on this side, and then you're going to yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first loop, that's the chain, yarn over, pull through the last 2, that's a single crochet. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way across. I kind of keep my fingers here so that you know, but because it's nice thick yarn, you should be able to see it pretty well. You just want to look for that chain, that last chain where it has the 2 pieces of yarn right there. So you're going to go back into that hole, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through 1. That's the chain. You can put your finger there if you want to remember where it's at, and then yarn over and go through the other 2 loops. That's the single crochet. Okay, so we're going to do that until we have 27 stitches. Once you get used to doing foundation single crochets, you get a rhythm, and you kind of can feel where the stitches are, so you're not really relying on looking so much. I know that working with this fuzzy yarn can be difficult if you are not used to that. So just feel, this is the single crochet right here, this bar. Go down under the bar and feel for the chain underneath it, and see that hole right there. Make sure you have, every chain has 3 pieces of yarn on it, right? There's the back piece and then the top 2. In this case, it's the bottom 2. So you're just going to go through that, make sure that the 2 are on the bottom. Pull up a loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, go through 2, just like that. Makes a nice solid piece. So go ahead and continue doing that until you get to 27 stitches, and you can tell the stitches by these little bumps right here. See that each bump, one of those, so this is the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, like that. Okay? Do definitely look at that 1-minute video. It'll be easier. It's easier yarn to look at. Okay, I'll meet you at the end of 27 stitches. Okay, I have 27 stitches. Working with this yarn, if you've never worked with this yarn before, there are some really great things about it, and there are some less great things about it. One of the great things is that it is really fast to work with. So when you make a project, 27 stitches, and look how big that is, it's gonna go really fast. The other thing too is that I am concerned that I don't have enough yarn to do this project, even though I got 3 rolls of it. So we'll see, because you use it up really fast. The other thing about it is that obviously it's very hard to see the stitches, okay? So I'm gonna show you what I do to count the stitches. What you wanna do is you wanna count the bar, right? So don't worry about this, it's the stitch before the bar. That's the actual loop that you're gonna go into, is that there's 2 loops right there. This is the back, or this is the front loop, this is the back loop. We're gonna use the back loop. And then when we do mosaic, we're gonna come down and use the front loop to make the picture. That's later, but for right now, we're gonna use the back loops. So this is the actual stitch that you count, but this is the bar, and you wanna count the loop before that bar. So this is the first one right here, and this is the chain that went up the side. So I might actually have one more than I think I do. Okay, so there's the first bar, 2, 3, 4, find that 5, 6, that's the single crochet, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Oh, no, perfect, 27. Okay, so I have 27 stitches there. The reason we have 27, that's what the pattern calls for. You always want to do, for the most part, you're working with odd numbers so that it's centered in the middle. On one side, we'll talk about it when we get to the mosaic, but for now, just let's just go off the pattern. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have 20 inches. So, or that it will stretch to 20 inches, because you know how pillows are, right? So this is only 18 inches. It's going to stretch to, it's not going to stretch to 20. It's only going to stretch to 19. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to add 2 more stitches. You don't want to add 1 more stitch. You want to add like at least 2 more, because you want to keep it an odd number. So that's what we're going to do, just to make it a little bit bigger. And yours might be bigger than mine, or they might be smaller than mine, but just kind of keep in mind that you're looking for about 20 inches. So pull up one loop, chain, single crochet. One loop, chain, and single crochet. Maybe that helped a little. When I did this originally, it fit over the pillow just fine. Also remember too that the pillow is going to be smushed in there as well, so it doesn't have to be perfectly 20 inches. I think 19 is going to be fine. Yeah. So that's about 19 slightly stretched, and I think that's going to be fine because that makes the pillow not flat but fluffier in there. It'll be kind of smushed in, so that's a good thing, I think. And that'll also make it keep its form a little bit better too, I think. So let's do that. So that I added 2 extra stitches. So now we're at 29. Okay. We're still going to do the 21 up. I think we're going to double check the size on that as we go. So you can't really measure this yet because this is not just one row, it's one row and a chain, and it's a little bit more, it's 1.5 inches, right? But I'm expecting them each to be about 1 inch. And if you've got 21 rows, that should put you just about right. So let's find out. So what I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead and you can actually just pull that through if you want to, or you can have a little knot on the end. I think what am I want to do? I think I want to have a little knot on the end just to be sure that it's okay. Maybe I don't. This yarn is so hard to undo once you do it that maybe it's just, you don't really need a knot on the end. You can just pull this through so that you have a little tail. I try to make them about the same length-ish, just so that you kind of know what you're... Okay, so cut the side that you know is going to stay on there to about the same length as your starter tail, and then pull that out. Okay, so you got your first row done. The mosaic pattern is 21 rows tall. We can make it 23, we can make it 20, we can add on to that if we want to, once we get there, if we know, about what size that it's gonna be. But we want the back of the pillow to be slightly more than that because we wanna overlap them. So I'm gonna do half of that. Let's do 11 rows of the green before we start the mosaic pattern. And then we can decide when we get to the gray and we're ending it, we can decide how long we want it to go over the top of the green before we end it off, right? And we can do our little last row that has the loops for the buttons on it. So let's go ahead and do another couple of rows. You want to do a total, I'm going to show you how to get this started here. So you're going to do a standing single crochet. The first one, so find the first bar, right? That's the first stitch right there. In the first stitch, you're gonna do just in both parts of the loops. Does that make sense? Instead of doing it just in the back loop, you're gonna do it in both the back and the front loop. On the first one and on the last one for every row. So a standing single crochet, you're gonna loop it over once, go through both loops, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both, okay? Okay, so now that you have your starter single crochet, you're gonna go ahead and do single crochets all the way across, but only in the back loop. So to find that back loop, it's gonna be a little harder with this yarn. You're just gonna find that little braid on top, and you're gonna take the one piece of yarn that is in the back of it, not the one in the front. And then we're gonna use this front, it's gonna create a ridge across the front, and we're gonna use that front ridge later when we get into the mosaic part to create our design. So back loop only, single crochet all the way across. It's kind of hard because it kind of twists to the front, so make sure you're doing the right one there. This yarn is so huge. If you can't find the stitch, find the bar. See that bar right there? And then grab the the back loop before it. Makes it easier to find. I don't have really great eyesight, so I tend to kind of crochet with my hands, like I count everything with my hands and stuff, because I feel my way across it. So I'm kind of used to that, but if you're not, that's why I don't mind crocheting with black yarn. Everybody complains about crocheting with black yarn because it's really hard to see the stitches. I don't have a problem because I feel where the stitch is. I feel the next stitch, and then I grab the loop in front of it. So I don't know if that comes from watching a lot of TV while I'm crocheting, and I just kind of feel my way across. So a lot of times I don't actually look at it. If anybody else is like that, please let me know. Let me know I'm not alone. This is gonna be interesting. I'm doing something that I haven't seen done on online, and that is mosaic crochet with really fluffy yarn. So it might work, it might not work, you know. The only way to find out is just try it, right? Oh, okay, so we're on the final stitch. When you're on the final stitch, you're gonna go under both loops. And this one's gonna be a little wonky on the end there. It'll unwonk itself as we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and pull. I think I do wanna knot it right there because that just looks weird to me. Maybe I can make this tighter. The other thing about this yarn too is that it's not as strong as you think it is. It's if you pull on it too tight, you can actually snap it, and you don't really want to do that. Okay, I am gonna do a little a little chain at the end just to make sure that that's nice and secure, so it doesn't look all weird like that. Okay, so now you can kind of measure that second row and see how tall it is, and it's about 1 inch. So I think that even though if you look at that mosaic pattern, it looks like it's gonna be shorter this way than this way because just the way that the grid is, but stitches are typically, especially in this, they're typically taller than they are wide. So I think although 29 inches is what's getting us across it, 21 inches will get us to the top, and it'll be more square. Hopefully that makes sense. So keep going until you get to about 11 rows, and then we'll see where we're at. That should cover the back pretty well, and then we can start on the mosaic part of it. Okay guys, I think I'm only 4 rows in, and I think we need to make this a little easier on ourselves. So I have already lost a stitch, and I feel like I know what I'm doing pretty well. So I feel like if I'm having struggles, probably you are too. So let's make it easier for ourselves to do it. The problem is, so if you watched my first mosaic crochet video, you'll see what I did, and you can do this instead if it's easier for you, is instead of doing the standing single crochet, I would pull up a loop, and then I would chain 1, and then I would single crochet into the same space. And that makes that first stitch easier to see. So if you want to do that instead of doing the standing single, you can absolutely do that. It doesn't make a difference one way or the other. Gosh, it just gets this yarn collects all kinds of stuff. Okay, but since I didn't start off that way, I'm going to continue doing it the way I was doing it. You can do it whatever way you're more comfortable with. It's not going to make a difference for the stitches or anything. But since I started off with the standing single, I think it's important to just be able to know where the loop is that you want to go into to do your standing single, so you don't lose that first stitch. What I'm going to do is it's kind of on the side really. It feels like it's off to the side. So I'm going to do the standing single in there like I did before. And then where you're going to go in is the side of that, kind of the side of that stitch. It brings it up to the top when you do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it for when we come back and do the next row. Don't be afraid of stitch markers. They are your friends. They might seem a little bit tedious, but if it keeps you from having to undo stuff, then it's worth it, right? So then find the next bar. Oh, that is the first bar right there, and then go into the next stitch. So yep, that's the first one. Okay, so then the next stitch over, the next bar over, you're gonna find the 2 pieces of yarn on top. That's the stitch. Gosh, I hope you guys can see that. It almost looks like a little braid right there. You're gonna take the back part. So next bar over, this is the stitch. You wanna take the back loop right there. I'm gonna let that, sorry, I let go. You're not supposed to let go on the first one. So go back over here, find the first bar over, find the 2 loops up here and take the back loop, and then do your single crochets all the way across. And then just every once in a while count and make sure you still have 29. Because if you don't, you're gonna end up wasting yarn pretty quick, because I was able to redo it and not lose a piece of yarn, but you know, with this thick yarn, you go through it pretty fast, so you don't want to make too many mistakes. Just double check your work now and then. I'm not one for counting stitches, so that's kind of hard for me. So that's why I think the stitch markers will help. And then I'm actually going to stitch mark the last stitch too, just because I think it'll help you identify where the end of it is as well. So let's go all the way down here. You can even count and make sure you have 29 stitches. So if you're doing it right, you're going into the back stitch, you should be able to see these ridges on here. They're pretty light, but we're gonna use them to build you don't have them on the other side, I don't think. Nope, I don't think so. It's hard to tell with this yarn. Sorry guys, I picked something really hard. This is gonna be a challenge. The actual pattern itself is not hard. It's not a challenging pattern. It's just being able to see what you're doing with this yarn is tough. But I think it's gonna create this really fluffy, cozy pillow, something different. Okay, so remember when you get to the last stitch, you're going in under both of these pieces of yarn. Okay, then you want to mark that, because that is where you're going to put your last stitch on the next row. Okay, and then you can chain to hold it. Trim your ends and start again. Just every once in a while, double check and make sure you have the right number of bars, and you count the first one, because that first stitch, unless you're doing that single crochet with the chain before it and then single crochet, then you wouldn't count the first loop. But this first bar is the first stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, and the last one is the 29th stitch. So we're good to go. So keep at it until you get to about 11 rows, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so I finished my 11 rows, but I don't like it. So here's what I'm gonna do, and I'm hoping that I caught you before you did what I did. Here, I don't know if you can tell, but these two ends just don't look right. That's because this side is the one that I did the standing single. This side is the one where I finished with a slip stitch at the end, right? I did a chain 1 at the end there. So what it does is it creates this like nice edge there. On this side, the edge isn't as nice. So, and if you look at this one was done, let's do it the right way. Wait, now I don't even know which way is the right way. So this one was done with the single crochet, where I did the chain 1 and then single crochet. And I told myself back then that I would do it differently, because look how you end up with like 2 stitches there but only one stitch on this side. But I think it makes for a nicer square look. The other thing I don't like about it is see how the starting yarn is clear over here and this one is right on the edge like it should be. I think that's, I don't like it. So, I mean, if I continued on and I just sewed, I'm going to end up sewing this piece together to the other side. So it's probably not even going to show because these are going to end up getting twisted together anyway. Not these two, but the other sides. But I just would rather have it be nice and finished on the end there. So rather than redoing these rows, I'm going to do just a quick fix. It's not going to fix the problem, but from now on, I will fix the problem. I won't do that standing single, but in order to bring these pieces closer, I'm just going to pull it over this way, go under that row or that starting single crochet right there. Taking this yarn apart is not easy, so I'm afraid that I will absolutely destroy it trying to take it apart. So I'm just going to pull this through here, wrap it around and pull it up. You could actually even pull it through if you wanted to make a little knot there to match the other side, but I don't think it's necessary as long as the yarn is over to the edge, so it's not so far in. See the difference? So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to pull all of those pieces of yarn over so that they're closer to the edge, and then from now on I'm going to do that single crochet. Instead of doing the standing single crochet, I'm going to do the chain one and the single crochet instead. And then hopefully that will make it a little bit more square. It's not going to matter. I'm just being really persnickety because it's when you sew the two pieces together, I don't think you're even going to be able to see a difference. But just so that it looks nice. Okay, so the first row of this pattern is green. It's the main color, right? And we're gonna do the actual pumpkin in orange. You can do it however you wanna do it. That's how I'm gonna do it. So I'm actually gonna add a 12th row to the back section, and then I'm gonna do, which will be like the extra row for both really. And then I'll start on the first row. So I'm really gonna add 2 more rows of green, one for the 12th row and one for the first row of this. And then we'll go into the orange row and we'll start there and then we'll work our way through it. Okay, so I have 13 rows of green and I'm ready to start my orange. So exciting. So now is when you'll start to see a picture for them. Okay, so on this pattern, what you'll see, I'm gonna put the pattern up on the screen for you. I'm gonna look at this on my phone, but it's gonna be shiny. So we'll put the one on the screen for you to look at. The first row is just solid green. The second row, even though you see the white on those first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches, that whole row is actually the second color, color B, which is for me orange. So go ahead and do 1 full solid row of B, and then I'll show you how that turns into the green on the next row. So if you notice on the mosaic pattern, the first stitch, it says A, right? That just means that we're going back to color A. That's going to be your solid stitch. It's just going to be a regular single crochet through both loops, right? The next stitch is, the next 6 stitches after that is when we're going to do the fun fancy stuff. So go ahead and pull in your color like you normally would. Chain 1 and then single crochet back into the same stitch. Okay, so that's your first stitch on this row. So then all the next 6 stitches, you're actually going to do a double crochet and you're going to go all the way down into the loop that you left in the front on this stitch. Oh my gosh, you guys, trying to record a video in this apartment is so hard. I'm used to it being nice and quiet and it's just not that way right now. Okay, so it's gonna be kind of hard to find it at first. Once you get used to it, you will though. So see that loop right there? That's the loop. You went into the back loop, this is the front loop. So you're gonna jump down to the front loop, go from underneath, grab a loop and pull it up, and then double crochet. So it basically goes over the top of that orange row. And you're gonna do that for the next 5 stitches, 6 stitches total. So jump down, grab that loop. You'll get used to where it's at and it won't feel so awkward. Double crochet. I've never seen anybody do this with this yarn before, so maybe I've asked too much of myself. It's going to be challenging for sure. It seems like it'll work in theory. Okay, jump down. From the bottom part up and then do your double crochet. Besides all the noises outside, I'm trying to like wash and dry clothes and dehydrate apples and do the laundry or the dishes. So there's a lot of noises going on. So that's 4. Doesn't that make it a lot easier to see the stitches? So it's 4. And 6. Okay, so and each one of these now, while we're doing the pumpkin pattern, it's gonna go orange. It's gonna like a little checkerboard. It's gonna go orange, green, orange, green, orange, green until we switch to gray, and then it'll go orange, gray. So now let's see. Then after those 6, we're just gonna go straight across and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 plain orange stitches. If you don't see an X, you're not dropping down. You're just going to do straight across. Even though it shows on the graph that there's some of those are black and some of them are white, which would mean color A and color B. If there's no X on it, it's just a straight single crochet all the way across, and then the colors will change when we drop down from the next row up. So hopefully that makes sense. So we did 6 doubles. Now we're going to do 6 singles back into the back loop again. Just make sure that you go into the right stitch. So this stitch we've already done. We did the loop in front down here. We're going to switch over here and we're going to do single crochet for the next 12 stitches. It was 12, right? That seems like a weird number. Sorry, 13 stitches. Should be an odd number because you want it to be centered. That's the base of the pumpkin right there. So we're gonna now go back and do these 6 doubles that drop down to the row before it. And then that should finish us out the exact right number, hopefully. Oh shoot, no, I did it wrong. Sorry, go back, go back, go back. Okay. I just realized, remember that I added 2 stitches. So instead of 6 down, you're gonna add 1 extra stitch. So we're gonna go over here to 7. So 7 down with the double. I call it a down. Sometimes you'll see it on the crochets. It'll say a D. That means double crochet, but in my head it means down. Okay. Okay. Now you're gonna do 13 singles in the back loop only, all the way across. And 13. Okay. So what you should have left is there should be 8 stitches left. There should be 7 down to match these 7 down, and then 1 stitch on the end. Okay, so you can count it ahead if you want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 stitch on the end. Okay, ready? So we're gonna do our downs. So not this one, because that's the one that's directly above that, or directly below that. So we're gonna go straight down into this one. This yarn is a challenge. Don't give up on me, I get it, but I think it's gonna be so cute when you're done with it. It'll be worth the extra effort. It'll be like having a plushie for a pillow. Okay, 7, that's the last one, that's the last double crochet. And then do 1 single under both loops on the last one to frame it in. Okay, and you're good to go. Okay, so when you pull this tight, just be sure that you're careful when you do it so that you don't break that yarn. Okay, back to orange. Okay, so the next row is the second B up. So B is color B. We just finished row 3 that had color A. So we're gonna go to row 4 with color B, and you're gonna do, where you don't see X's, it's all gonna be single crochets. So regardless of what the color is on the chart, you're still gonna do single crochets. So I see 6 single crochets. We're gonna add 1 because remember we added a stitch on either side to make it a little bit wider. So we're gonna make it 7 single crochets across, and then we'll do the drop down where that X is. Okay, so single crochets in the back stitches, 7 of them. This one was the first, that was just the starter one. 1, 2. Okay, so I've got my starter stitch plus 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're gonna drop down into the orange down below. And so now we're going to do the D, the double crochet, what I call drop down, into that front loop of the orange, and then you're going to do your double crochet. Okay, now you're going to do 2 regulars, so just make sure you don't do the one that you just did. You're going to jump over to this one and do regular in the back loop. 1, 2, and then according to the chart, it's 2 down. And you can tell by the X's. So 1, and 2. Okay. And then you're going to do 3 regular. Remember this one, you're going to skip over and go into this one. That you're not skipping any stitches, but it feels like you should go here, but really that stitch, if you lay it flat, goes right there. So you're going to go over into the back loop of the next 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then you're going to do 2 down. So this one, so it should have 3 front loops right there that you didn't go down into, and then this one will be the next one. So 2 down, 1, and 2. Okay, so you should have a mirror image going on there, the one in the middle there. And then you're gonna do 2, just if you follow this pattern, you're just gonna do 2 regular now. Don't do that one, do this one. One and 2. And then you're gonna drop down and do that last one. Okay, and then singles the rest of the way across. You should have 7 singles and then 1 just plain on the end that's through both loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this last one should be just plain. Go through both of those loops right there. And then finish it off, and we're gonna go back to green. I'm gonna go ahead and let you just work on the pattern. I'm gonna put the chart on the front of the screen so that you can pause and just look at the chart as you're working. And then I'll meet you at the top of the chart and we'll go from there. Actually, I'll meet you at the color change. So I'm gonna change color halfway through this pumpkin. So let's stop at 10, row 10, and then we'll switch to gray. Yeah, because the pumpkin ends, yeah, I think that'll work out great. So 10 is right the middle of the pumpkin. That's where we'll do the gray yarn or whatever color you're switching to. Look how far I've gotten. It's this is a lot of fun. It's coming together. We are going to go to the gray row now, which for me is row 11. Row 11 of the mosaic pattern, not of the whole thing. And if you're following along, it says A, so we're switching our A. Our color A is now going to be gray instead of green. It's just a subtle difference, but I think it's going to look cool, hopefully. Maybe not, we'll see. So we're gonna, it's not going to be any different than the other ones. You're just switching out the gray for the green, or the green, you're switching the green to gray. And then you're just going to keep on just the way you were before. So I'll go ahead and get this started. We're going to chain 1 on the side, and then single crochet. And I've been kind of pulling this tight because I don't like how loose that is over there. We are not going to be weaving these ends in. So we're going to be twisting them together and doing some fun stuff with them on the end. So just leave those there and don't worry about them. So after the first stitch, we're going to do 2 down, but actually it's 3 down because we added an extra stitch there, right? Hopefully you guys are keeping up with that and it's not messing you up too much. So we're going to go 3 down. You can find the front of the stitch, which is right here. It gets a little confusing because these kind of tend to lean a little bit, so you want to just find the front loop of the next stitch, and that's what you're going into. So double crochet, hopefully by now you're probably used to just following the lines on the pattern too, so you're not staring at the chart the whole time. You can kind of go off of what's going on your piece as well. Okay, so 3 singles or doubles, and then we're going to do 2 singles, 1 double, 3 singles. So in the back loop of this stitch, so find your back loop, which is right there. So you have to kind of, for some reason my orange yarn is thinner than my gray and my green, which, you know, I mean, it's better to have it that way than have them actually I think the green is probably the thickest one out of all of them. So we'll see how that looks, but you're gonna go into the back stitch of that, find the next stitch. So that's the bar. You're going to find the stitch and go into the back loop of that. And then we're going to drop down to this green down here, front loop of that green. Losing my spot. This is where it comes in handy to have it printed out and then just have the little piece of cardboard or something over it so you know where you're at. So 1, 2, 3 singles and then 1 double. This is why I think that, you know, if you haven't ever done mosaic before, it's going to be so hard to see that. So definitely you want to check out that other video first. Once you get used to looking for that front loop though, it gets a lot easier. Okay, last drop down for this row. So it's so funny, some of these stitches are super easy to get into and other ones are really not. Okay, and then the full single crochet at the end to border it, and then the chain one to end it. Okay, and then back to the orange. I'm going to put the chart back up on the screen so you can watch it and just pause it and follow along if you want to, or also I've had the chart available so that I have it, I downloaded it onto my computer and I just have it on my computer screen, which is right next to me, so that makes it easy too. So continue doing that, and then I will meet you at the top of the pumpkin, and then we'll talk about how we're going to finish it. Hey guys, so I am almost done with the mosaic part, but a couple of things I've learned that I wanted to share with you just to make sure that, you know, we're all kind of on the same page. And actually share with you a mistake that I made. So this yarn, remember I was saying that the green yarn was really thick and this wasn't? It's actually designed that way. So I actually bought, let me see if I can show you. Unknowingly, because they were in the same area, I bought two different yarns. So the green one was this blanket extra, and the orange and the gray was just plain blanket. So just so you know, I messed up there. However, I don't mind it. It actually is gonna make the bottom of the blanket be nice and stable, or sorry, not blanket, but bottom of the pillow is gonna be nice and stable. And the top of it's gonna be, you know, not as thick. I actually don't mind it at all. We'll see, you know, happy accidents, right? The other thing I wanted to share with you too is I picked out my buttons for the back. I went shopping and I got some buttons that were like ornamental, and they were just a little bit too, when I got them back here next to the pillow, they were just a little bit too small and pokey. So I ended up busting out my old button bag and got these wood buttons out of there. But this is one of the ornamental ones that I bought. So that's gonna go in the middle, and then I'm gonna put these other buttons along there. So just so you know, so you can start gathering your resources. Here, I'll pull it down so you can see better. Whatever buttons you want to put in the back. I'm planning on probably 7 buttons across the back, just because that seems like it looks good. But we'll see. Could be 5. You know, if you use really big buttons, it could be 3. You know, doesn't have to be 7, but I'm probably going to use 7. So you can kind of plan ahead for that. Start picking out what buttons you want to put. Some big chunky, because this is big chunky yarn, big chunky buttons would look really cute. I just didn't have any that matched, so I'm going to go with that. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the mosaic pattern. I'm almost there. I only have like 3 rows left. The top row of the pattern is like all double crochets with the exception of where the stem is in the middle. And then we're gonna just add our rows like we were before with the green until we get to the where we want in the back. And then we'll add our buttons, and then we'll talk about, actually we might add the buttons last, but we'll talk about how we're gonna sew them together on the sides and what we're gonna do with all this. Okay, the pumpkin mosaic is complete. I'm so excited. It looks so cute and fluffy and fun. I can't wait for it to be a pillow. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create this sort of envelope flap that's gonna come down, and you want it to overlap so that when you put the pillow in there, the pillow is gonna like fluff this out, and you don't want it to be like right on the edge. Otherwise you're gonna have this like poppin' fresh white pillow sticking out of there. You don't want that. The buttons are mostly decorative, but they do kind of hold the flap down. And then we'll have the buttons across the back where the gray meets the green. But look, I have all this extra orange. I wonder what I'm gonna do with that. I will show you in the end screen, because that's a lot of extra orange, and I have big plans for it. Go ahead and continue on. Keep growing your piece until it's big enough to flip over this and fit around your pillow. We'll do the detail work after that.
Okay guys, here is an update on my pillow. So far, I haven't got anything attached yet. I just have it pinned together. I just wanted to show you what it's gonna look like on the back. The first thing I wanna tell you is that it's gonna take a lot more rows to get over and down to the green than we did on the green. So we did like 12 rows of green before we got to the mosaic part. And then to get it across the top and down the bottom so that it touches the green, it was 24 rows of the gray, so double, right? And that's because of the thickness of the yarn. So this yarn is a lot thinner. This is the Bernat Blanket. This is the Bernat Blanket Extra. You can tell like just how much thicker that is than this. So the other thing too is I could have stretched it, but if I stretch it, you can see through it. And I didn't want to have that happen, so we're just gonna like keep it at its normal, where it would lay normally, and just do the extra rows. I don't think I'm gonna put buttonholes because we have kind of natural buttonholes already in here, so you can put the buttons wherever you want. So we're gonna do that later. The number of rows on yours may be different than mine, based on like, you know, how tight your stitches are and all that stuff. So that's what's great about measuring things as opposed to using rows, or just doing it. In my case, I didn't measure anything. I just did it to the pillow shape. So, and that's, you know, probably the easiest way to do it. So what I did was I pinned them together, just on the sides, just to make sure. I put the green against the green, made sure that the mosaic was in the middle so that it looks good, right? And then I flipped the gray over and made sure that it would reach all the way down to the green with no pop and fresh coming out. And then I pinned the sides here. So the next thing we're gonna do is we are going to sew this up the side. We're just gonna do a regular mattress stitch. I'm gonna leave these hanging, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna twirl these together and make them into these cute little tassels.
One eternity later.
Okay guys, I am back. It has been, I think, a week or two since I last recorded. The reason why is because my husband and I moved back into our house because it looked like we weren't going to sell our house anytime soon. So we moved out of the apartment back into the house, and then promptly got an offer on our house, because that's just how it works, right? But I did finish one side before we had to change everything. So I'm going to go ahead and show you on camera how to do that. So pick whichever side you feel most comfortable with. It doesn't really matter which side you start on. When you pin it together, you definitely want to pin it together around the pillow so that you know, like, you know how it's going to fit. This fits a little more loosely than I would like, but I like it better. I like where the pumpkin sits better when I have it pinned this way. So you can do it tighter, you could do less rows. I didn't want to pull it too tight because look, you can see right through that. So I wanted it to be kind of looser, and that's what I got. So like I said, if I were to do this project again, I would do it differently. I would probably use the thicker yarn. It's twice as expensive as the thinner stuff is, because you get less yardage, which I'll tell you about at the end. But anyway, so, you know, just kind of keep that in mind. You could probably make a smaller pillow with a smaller hook and use all the thin yarn and probably get just as good of a feel as this. So, but since we have this is what we're working with. I'm gonna go ahead and start on the bottom. We're just gonna do like a mattress stitch. There's a lot of yarn here. I don't think I'm gonna need it all, but just to be safe, I'm just gonna leave a little tail right there that I can weave in later. So you're basically just gonna take the edges of these stitches and you're gonna try to pretend like these aren't here, and you're just gonna go around them, right? So we're gonna go under both loops on this side, and you're gonna stitch it up kind of like you're lacing up like shoes. Don't pull that too tight or you'll pull it right out. And then go over the other side and do the same thing. You want these to kind of match up because we are eventually going to twist them together. So you want them to be kind of lined up with each other, which leaves an extra one down here. So maybe you want these to be lined up. Yeah, so just kind of like feel it out ahead of time and make sure that they kind of line up with each other so that you know where you're starting. So these are the ones that are going to line up next to each other. And when you pull it, a lot of times with mattress stitch, one of the things that we kind of like to do is you kind of like to leave it loose and then you pull it tight later. But I'm not going to do that on this because this yarn is kind of hard to work with. Once you get a few stitches into it, it's hard to pull without breaking it because it's just a tiny string in there holding that together. So you want to pull it kind of tight as you go. Okay, so through there, we're going to go around this guy and then underneath the next stitch. So the mattress stitch kind of just like, it sort of just disappears in there, which is kind of nice. So you won't see the, I think I just did this one, didn't I? No, I didn't. Okay. So you won't see the gray down here in the green like you think you might. And then of course it'll just completely disappear once we get up to the gray. When you get up to this fold over right here, you definitely want to make sure that you're capturing both sides of that piece, because you've got the green underneath it and then the gray on top. You got to make sure that you're going through both of them. I almost missed it on that one. And then go through. And when you go through this one, go through this, well, you're actually going to jump over and go through this side. But then make sure you get the corner on here and the side over here together. And that's what's going to make that little envelope back here so that this flaps over the top of the pillow so it doesn't pop out. Okay, so I have finished sewing up my end and also this end. You'll notice that they're a little bit tighter on the sides than it is in the middle. I kind of did that on purpose because, like I said, it's a little looser than I wanted it to be. So when you put the pillow in there, it kind of fluffs everything up but keeps it kind of tight on the sides. You don't have to do it that way. You can actually like make sure that this part is looser when you sew it together so it lays flat if you are tighter on your pillow. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and show you really quickly. You kind of want to go through and just kind of get an idea of what pattern you're going to do on this. And you kind of want to sort out your stitches. Now, this piece right here is going to be extra because that's the tail. So that's going to get sewn in. These two are going to go together. These two are going to go together. These two are going to go together, right? Until we get up to the orange. That's when we start to put the orange and the green together. These two will go together. And then orange and green. So the orange should be every other because that's how it is on the pattern. So, and then at some point, you're actually, when you have the gray overlapping the green, you're gonna have an additional gray piece or an additional green piece, however you want to do it, or is fine. We'll just weave those into the piece, whatever extra pieces you choose. If you want the extra pieces, if you want the gray to like start going with the orange right away, you can. It's totally up to you. So you decide how you want to do it. It's just kind of good for me. I just went through and did a little extra just to make sure I knew like what my plan was. Just as long as the orange is like every other. So we'll do like green and green, orange and green. You can do gray and green, and then, am I missing an orange? Oh, he's down there. And then green and this one might get sewn in, you know, and then green and gray, and then orange and green, and then this one might get sewn in, and then green and gray, and then orange and gray, and then it'll be gray and gray, orange and gray, gray and gray, orange and gray. Okay, so twisting these together is actually kind of fun and easy. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go ahead and like leave your little tail out, find your first two that you're gonna do, and you're gonna grab one and you're gonna twist it to the left or counterclockwise as much as you can until it starts to kind of twist in on itself. And it's a little harder to see with this fluffy yarn. So every once in a while, I just kind of like take it and see what's going on, see how it twists in on itself like that. Make it a little bit tighter for when you do the knot. Okay, then you're gonna hold this one with these fingers, and then you're gonna do the same thing with its pair. You can count if you want them to be exactly the same. I haven't been counting mine. Okay, it's kind of twisted, could be a little bit tighter. It's hard to tell on the really fluffy yarn. Okay, that seems to be working. And then what you're going to do is you're going to hold them together and you're going to twist them together the opposite direction. So you're going to go clockwise this time, and they kind of just grab onto each other like that, and they don't really come apart. Okay, so once you get to this point, you want to kind of pull it out about where you want it to be. You might, for me, I'm probably going to go back and make sure I'm doing something close to what I did over here, because you don't want it to be too long. And then you're going to knot it about where you want it to go. Kind of bring it in a little bit, just because you don't, like, some of these might be shorter and you want to make sure that they can all be kind of similar. Like that is longer, so we're going to take this one out a ways. Once you knot this big thick yarn, it's going to be very hard to unknot it, so make sure you did it where you want it to go. Okay, so kind of matches the other side, and it'll kind of stay together. So you could untwist it if you want to, but it just naturally, because of that twist this way and then that way, it just kind of stays together. So, and then you're going to want to do that all the way up the side. And then if you have, and try to keep in mind the pattern, you know, when there's an orange one, you want to kind of think ahead of time if you want the orange ones to, they're every other one, as you can see on here, right? And then you have to kind of decide if you want them to hook up with the green or the gray or whatever. Whatever you like the best. And then up here it will be just green and gray, or green and orange and gray. Okay, moving on, continue. I'll meet you like right around here and see kind of how it looks, and then we'll keep going all the way to the end. Okay, so here's where we're at. You'll see that I have a few little stragglers because my numbers weren't working out, and I know it's because I just like have gray layered over the top of green. So those are going to be woven in, which that's kind of nice, because if I have anything loose, like that helps me like fix it, shore it up. I've got stuff to do that with. So this is basically where we're at so far. I've got this much left. Okay guys, I have to admit, I really love it. It's pretty cute. I am going to show you, I haven't put the buttons on it yet, but I was going to show you that you can actually do it without the buttons, and it still lays really nicely in the back. It's just this little envelope like that. So it's got like a little shirt that hangs over the pants. But I am going to do the buttons because I think the buttons will be cute too. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay, so in figuring out where to put these buttons, first you want to do is find the center. So you're going to take the bars and you're going to count in halfway through. So this is 29. So the center point is going to be the 15th stitch, right? Because 14 plus 14 is 28. So the center part is going to be that 29th stitch. And you want it to be see where this comes to right, that top of that line right there? That's where you want it to go, right there. And that is where our button's going to go. Okay, and if you want, you can pin that there. This is just going to be where we're going to use these little holes as the buttonholes. Okay, so that should lay perfectly flat, and it's going to kind of pull down across. This is the line that we're going to bring it down to. So think of that as kind of the horizon. This is the sky, and the sky is going to meet the horizon, and it's going to be nice and straight. Okay, does that make sense? And technically, there's extra on the ends, like 2 extra stitches, but I don't think it's going to matter because this is the part that you're going to want to hold down, right? And as you can see from the video before, it's not going to make, I mean, it doesn't even need to be held down. This is really more for decorative purposes. But to make sure you do it on the right one, make sure you mark it. So you know where that button's going to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, see, that's the biggest problem right there. So we'll find a smaller needle, and then we'll find some yarn that will work with our smaller needle. Okay, that works. That works. Okay, we're good to go. Luckily, I picked out this yarn for our next project, and it happens to be pretty close to that gray, so I think it's going to work. This is just a cotton yarn that I'm going to use for what I think might be our next project, although now I'm starting to have ideas about a different one. This is how it goes with me, man. They're just like one idea right after another, then they all start to bunch up, and then I got busy with life, and then you're like, what was I thinking I was going to do? We're going to end up weaving that in anyway. If you don't like that knot, you can actually weave it in and come back and then do your button and then weave it and come back. You're going to end up doing the same exact thing. This knot just is going to give it just a little bit more stability. I don't love knots, but I will use them when we need to. Okay, so put your hand back here so you don't go all the way through, or you can even just like go straight through that bar that you just created. I'm gonna I like them to be this way instead of this way, but you can do it however you want. And I'm gonna give it two times through. Since we're working with yarn instead of thread, I think that that'll be plenty secure. Okay, so then you can just tie it to this first one, or you can, you know, do a regular knot underneath the, it all works out to be the same. Okay, and then weave your ends back and forth this way, this way. There you go. It just disappeared in there. Okay, so that one's done. We'll do the other side. Okay, so there you go. So then this will come down here and you'll be able to hook it in. Gosh, there's just this one little thing stuck in there. There we go. And you'll be able to just use any one of these loops to go over the button, like so. So go ahead and do that all the way across with whatever buttons you've chosen to use, and then I'll show you how it looks in the end. Ta-da! Here it is, my completed pillow. Isn't it so cute? I did make a change though. I didn't like the buttons that I picked out. When I took a picture of it to give it to my Facebook group to see, they just seemed too small. So I went ahead and I changed them to just bigger wooden buttons along the back. And you can make them be whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you joy. Definitely do that. So let me give you a quick review on, you know, what my final thoughts are on this yarn, and then I'm going to show you some upcoming projects. So with the Bernat Blanket Extra, you get 97 yards. And it was about, I think I got it for like $12 a skein. Some of them I got for half price because I had a coupon, but just normally $12 a skein for the Bernat Blanket Extra. And that is this really thick green stuff right here, right? But you only get 97 yards. This one on the regular Bernat Blanket, you get 220 yards. So more than double for the same price. Okay, so keep that in mind. You're gonna get a lot more yardage on the yarn, but it is a lot thinner. See how it's a lot thinner? Now, of course, you can combat that by going down a couple of hook sizes to make it tighter. But you know, definitely if you're doing a mixture, this was unplanned, but if you're doing a mixture of thick stuff and thin stuff, that's not going to work. But if you're gonna do all thin stuff, then it just go down a couple of hook sizes and you're going to be just fine. It'll tighten all of that up in there. I felt like this was easier to work with, but I definitely think that this gives you more of a pillowy feel and look to it. So choose accordingly, I guess. These ones were easier to do the little twisties on. This was definitely harder to do twisties on, but that's, you know, they're both wonderful. I love them both. But anyway, so that's how the pillow turned out. But let me show you some other projects I've been working on as well. So to me, crochet is a form of stress relief for me, and I have been stressing a lot lately because we're in the process of selling our house. So I have just been crocheting my little heart out as I've been trying to deal with all of that. And here's some of the things I came up with. The first one is, look at this cute little guy. This is a Cuddle Ghost. He is made out of Cuddle fabric, so it's really soft. And I just did very similar to the lace edging that I just did, the video I just did before this. This is actually my little puffy pumpkin that I made using the leftover yarn from that pillow right there. I have a ton of leftover yarn. And this is actually a video that I made years ago when I first started making videos. I will link that in the description. It's just a plain old super easy pumpkin. And then this guy right here, also from the super easy pumpkin pattern, but this is made, and I don't know if you can tell, but I did color pooling in the round. So it's a little bit, it's kind of plaid. This particular yarn is very subtle. So, but I can, if you're interested in doing a planned pooling pumpkin, say that 10 times fast, that might be something that we'll do in the future too. And then this, again, from a really old video, one of my first big ones was the twisted neck wrap, but I decided to see if I could do planned pooling in a twisted neck wrap. So I don't know if you can see it from this angle, but this is actually a zigzag pattern. Isn't that so fun? And that's just done with planned pooling. So if that's something that interests you, that may be coming up soon too. But in the meantime, if you just want to do a twisted neck wrap, that video is also in the description, the link to it, because it's one of my beginning ones, my early ones. Let me know what you think of this pattern, and I'd love to see pictures. So if you want to show them to me, come and join us on my Facebook group called Ginell's Quarantine Crochet. And you can share pictures and ask questions and get help, and it's lots of fun. So I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.